Good morning, everybody. Tzidkas Hatzadik, Ois Ayin Tes. Rav Tzadok Inyan HaPagam Lamala Ayidei Avoynois. I'm going to explain the Pagam, the fault that we create in Shamayim Lamala Ayidei Avoynois when we do Avoynois here. What happens in the Shamayim when we do Avoynois here? God forbid somebody's Machal Shabbos, talks Lashon Hara, eats treif. Makore. What does it do in the bigger picture, in the bigger bria? And we know there's a pagam, which I will explain in a minute how we know what pagam there is. But how does it work? So he answers, and I'll go back in a second. Hu al derech masha'anu oimrim. It's similar to what the Gemara says in Sukkah Chavtes. Sha'achama loka. It's like an eclipse of the sun. Eclipse of the sun, right? The eclipse of the sun is blocked by the moon. Yeah, the sun is blocked by the moon, and you can't see the sun, but the sun is there. The sun is shining. You're not changing the sun, but you're changing the or hachama, that the purpose of the sun was to give light into the world, and it's frustrated, if you will, by the fact that it can't give this light into the world because it's being blocked. Just imagine yourself given a job and not being allowed to do your job. Your supervisor doesn't let you do the job. So that's very frustrating, it's very aggravating, it's very demeaning, and that's why it's called likui hachama. Eclipse is a good word. That means it's covered. Eclipse, to eclipse something is to cover it. But a likui is an actual fault in the sun itself. There's no fault in the sun itself, but why is it called a likui? Because it can't do its job. When it can't do its job of giving or for those few minutes or hour or complete or not complete, there's all kinds of eclipses. It's a mashal, but it's a mashal which is a very strong mashal, which I want to get into. But when we talk about, before we get into it further, when we talk about a pagam, what's a good word for a pagam? Effect, a fault. We're talking about like some kind of a fault occurring in the Shamayim. When we do an Aveira, the Shamayim doesn't change, like the sun doesn't change with an eclipse. Shamayim doesn't change. You're not changing Hashem, you're not changing the Shechina, not changing nothing. But it is eclipsed. Hence it's called a pagam. It's not a pagam because you've now made a black hole in the sun. It's or in the Shamayim or in the Malachim, but it's a pagam because now Hashem can't do what He wants to do, which is to bring light into the world. Agav, which is not so agav, it's really the main thing. It's important for us to always understand that we're always looking for the Shechina. The Shechina is a connection between Hashem's worlds and this world. In Kabbalistic language, Hatzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. Connected. When they're connected, there's or. When we, different times in Sefer Bereshis, that we went off the derech, we were mafsik the or. The avos after the Mabul, after Bavel, Migdal Bavel, they brought back the or. Went to Mitzrayim, we went down Memtesh Shari Tuma, we lost the or. Moshe Rabbeinu came, brought us back up, restored the Or. The 50th Shar Hanun of the Or was at Har Sinai. We built the Egel, bloop, lost the Or again. We built the Mishkan, Or restored. Did the Meraglim, wandered around 40 years without Or. We came into Eretz Yisrael, thank God, and here we are with Or and potential Or until the Or HaMashiach. There's the history of the Shekhinah in a minute. The idea here is that it's much more important than we think. This is not just I'm telling you like some kind of a Kabbalistic thing about the Shekhinah coming back and forth. When the Shekhinah is shining, let's say, think of it as a powerful lumen like the Chama, which is shining into this world. So then there's clarity. Like every light creates clarity, so does the Shekhinah create clarity. Otherwise, we're groping in darkness. And when there's clarity, there's blessing, and there's understanding, and there's not hester panim. Now we know, and this is to our point, that even if there's hester panim, of course Hashem is there. Of course He's taking care of us. Whereas Reb Nachman always says, "Afilu b'hastara shebehastara." Doesn't make a difference how hidden the light is from us. It's okay, but it's not okay. These eclipses cause things like holocausts, which might somehow in some higher world be somehow for the good, but in our mind is pretty bad. And that's the lack of the Shekhinah. So this is not an agav thing. The lack of the Shekhinah doesn't only help the Shekhinah, let's put it that way. The Shekhinah doesn't only help us understand what's going on, but it actually creates a clarity where everybody understands that the world is run by Hashem. And if that clarity exists, everybody understands that that this is all the prophecies of the Yemos HaMashiach, yeah? That everybody's going to come. We say it even on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Everybody's going to come together and going to worship Hashem. So obviously, there won't be the type of oinshim and the type of hester panim that we experience. So the Shekhinah is really the whole thing. Point two about the Shekhinah, because we need to be educated about the Shekhinah, and that it's so important, not just in Jewish history, but how the world works. The whole world works, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. You know, if you'll open any Kabbalah Sefer, the Zohar, the Ramchal, the Arizal, the Leshem, you'll open any Kabbalah Sefer, and you read the first 2 pages, which is about what I did. The first 2 pages are asking the question, why did Hashem create the world? Even the Ramban starts with that. Why did Hashem create the world? Well, it makes any sense that Hashem created the world. And all of Kabbalah is there to explain this question. Everything, just to explain why did Hashem create the world. And then we get under the hood and we understand the spheros and we understand the olamos, and you can understand all kinds of the partsufim. There's all kinds of reflections and things that are going on. But the question is, why did Hashem create the world? And the answer is, Ratza dira b'tachtonim. It's in Chazal. Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu livrei dira b'tachtonim. For whatever reason, in the words of the Gemara, I mean, not that we can understand, but we can understand the mashal anyway. Words of the Gemara that Yoser, more than a egel, more than a little calf, wants to eat. The paro wants to give milk, wants to feed on all kinds of levels, emotional levels, biological levels. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the mashal that Chazal gave to this idea. The mashal that Chazal gave was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, what's the point of having this great, it's funny talking about God this way, but I'm just saying Chazal, what's the point of having this great light with no place to shed it, no place to put it, and no place for it to reflect? The light without reflection is not light. It's a vacuum. In the world of physics, if there's nothing, if the world would be a vacuum, the light doesn't shine. It doesn't shine in a vacuum. It needs to reflect on something. So that's what the world is for, the reflection. The way I can understand this, but it's very important for our Liba today, the way I can understand that it's not that Hashem wanted to create a world because, hey, let's create some reflection. That's the shleimus of Hashem's world. The shleimus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world is that the Or has some place to go. How do we Jews fit into this? The answer is we are the ones that are supposed to be shedding this light. And this is so important that and this is not like something we're supposed to do when we retire or in our spare time or not starve. This is our whole purpose. The whole purpose of the Jewish people, the whole reason why we exist through these wars miraculously, the whole reason why we exist through pogroms and holocausts, and maybe even part of why we haven't, is because our job is to, ba'orcha, as David HaMelech said, nira or HaMashiach. Moshe, Kepnei or Hachamo. Everything is all about this or that Hashem wants in the world, created us Jews, like it or not, if you're Jewish, it created us Jews. Specifically, everybody has to shed some light, but and everybody has a light, but our light can be directly the light of Hashem. And if we're spreading it, we're doing our purpose in life. And if we're not spreading it, we're not. If we're just kind of like trying to exist in this world, then we're not. So I'm not that I should apologize for it, but I'm not saying this to give musar. That's not my point. I'm saying this so we understand why Hashem created the world. Bishvili nivra olam means that I have a certain light, and that light has to be out. And if I don't shed that light, the world is darker. And that or is called the or HaShechina. And the Shechina means, in simple Hebrew, the presence of Hashem. So the presence of Hashem, whole idea is to connect the Olam Oisel Yonim to the Olam Oisel Tachtonim. Otherwise, what Hashem create the world for? Yes, move on. Yep, my intro, yeah.
How does one do that? Is that Kiro?
Oh.
Reading Torah?
By being a person with integrity, by being a person who does Ratzon Hashem, by having Avas Yisrael, by contributing to the world. Whatever, everybody contributes differently. So, let's take it a step deeper so we understand what he's talking about. When he says a pegam lamala, inyan ha-pegam lamala yidei avonos, what pegam is he talking about? I know the answer because I have a pirush in my Rav Tzadok. The pegam, he's referring to the Zohar. And the Zohar, in Parshas Nosei, Kuf Chav Beis Amud Aleph, I could read it to you, it's hard words, Pekuda da hi mitzvahs tshuva. The Zohar in Parshas Nosei is speaking about tshuva. What happens? Tshuva, we understand, is a kind of a self-improvement thing, yeah? So in other words, we've strayed, we've done averos, it's like a self-help, like Elul everybody does, Rambam, self-help, Hilchos, self-help, Hilchos tshuva. So MS, we're getting back on track, but the word teshuva means that we are, who's returning where? We're returning to Hashem. We're returning to Hashem. We're doing tshuva. Everybody knows what tshuva means. So it's a Zohar, that's not what tshuva is. It's not what tshuva. According to the Zohar, tashuv, hey. Tshuva. Tashuv, hey. We're returning the hey to the yud kei vav kei. It says in the Zohar. Let's elevate ourselves for a moment. Hashem's name is Yud Hey Vav Hey. The basic to the Zohar is, we explained it before, we'll explain it again, but we don't need to explain it now. The basic to the Zoharic thinking of the Shem Hashem is that the Yud Hey Ka, and a lot of times you find just Ka, right? The Yud Hey is from up to down, meaning that's Hashem's Shechina beginning to descend as a Yud, as a Hey, and the Vav Hey is a connector. That's what it means, right? That's what the word means. The Vav Hey is the Vav connects it to the Yud Hey. Think of a train kilo, but the Hey is running loose. And when we do a Chet, whenever we do an Aver, the Hey is running loose. So you don't have a complete connection to the Yud, Kei, Vav, Hey, Shu, Vav, Tashuv, Hey. all you technicians can relate to this in a different, in a deeper, but like, boom, like you connected, tashuv, hey. Does that mean we return to God? Of course it means we return to Hashem, but that's not the word. The word, according to the Zohar, or maybe it's the Remez, that's in the word also, besides for the Pashat Pshat in the word is that we are completing the process of the Or HaShechina coming milamala lamata, hitting earth. Yud, Kei, Vav, Hey. You know, I once said this is a chidush, and I don't even know if I'm right, but it's just something that I do. Hope I'm right. But the Mishnah even says that when you daven Shemona Esrei, Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Samid, when you daven Shemona Esrei, you're supposed to think of Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. That's a thing to think about. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Maybe many shuls, they even have it. Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid. Like you can't think about God, but you're supposed to stand in front of God. So what are you going to think about? Everything you think about, boom, you're wrong. Like you're the minute you create some kind of an image in your mind, whatever it might be, so you messed up. So that's already apocarsis. So the Mishnah Berurah brings from Kadmonim there, Rizal, that you should think of the Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, because there's a lot of names to Hashem, but that's the name that has to do with our world. That's the name that, why? Because Yud, Hey, those are the four Elamis, Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, and we gotta connect, boom, the Hey, Achrona, to the Yud, Kei, Lamala. The Vav is the Vav HaChibur. Vav is the Vav HaChibur. What's my Chiddush? That's not my Chiddush, that everybody knows. My Chiddush is that if you're thinking about let's say you're meditating on the Yud Hey Vav Hey. Is it okay if I say this? I don't know. What?
Need our permission?
You'll see. I don't give meditation classes here. And I'm a really bad meditator. This is the problem. So I'm trying to, I tried meditating and it's like either I fall asleep or just doesn't, but I'm really envious of these Buddhist guys. Sit there in a total consciousness for 6 hours at a time. But not for. But the thing with the Yud Hey Vav Hey is that if you imagine it across, it's hard to create that picture in your brain maybe, but not in your mind. And the reason I find that it's hard is because it's going across. And the whole hisbonenus of the Yud Kei Vav Kei is going from top to bottom. Yes? Yud, Hey, Vav, Kei. It's Ishtalshus. So it's Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. So I think the correct way to misponen in Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey is to think of it as Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, from top to bottom. And if you do think of that, very interesting, because the Zohar, and where it says to think about Yud Kei Vav Kei, says to think about Adam HaKadmon. What the heck is Adam HaKadmon? Not 100% sure, but if you do think Yud Hey Vav Hey, you get a man. Meaning, we don't imagine Hashem as a man, obviously. That's not the point. But the Adam HaKadmon is what the Zohar talks about in Bereshis, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a tzura like a tfus for the bria, and the tfus is b'temus adam. That's the tzelem elikim. Tzalmeinu kid museinu. That's the pashut pshat. So a lot easier to imagine that. Understand why I'm asking permission. I'm going to get meditation techniques, but.
Are you saying that the Yud is like the head, the hay?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And I was at a chasana, and I was next to somebody who's known to be big makubal, Rabbi Yaacov Hillel, who should have a refuah shalema. He's in the ICU right now, but he was a friend and a rebbe of mine. So I asked him what he thinks about this, and he said, quote, very cute. Yes, sir.
Could the battle of Amalek trying to eclipse the Shekhinah or break the relationship?
Yad al Keiska.
So does that mean it's reaching up? I thought Amalek was blocking us it sounds like the cause.
Okay, let's work on it. But what you put your finger on is exactly where I want to go. That Reb Tzadok's mashal of an eclipse is exact. So when we talk about creating a pagam lamala, what we're talking about, let's just not go too carried away here. What we're talking about making a pagam lamala, what it means to say is that we've separated the tashuv from the hay. Hence, that's pretty big. That's a big deal, because when you separate the tashuv from the hay, you have no clarity of no shechina, you have no light, and the whole thing, as we explained, is all about hashras hashchina. You know, the whole reason we want to build the Bayis Shlishi is we'll have hashras hashchina. The whole reason we all moved to Eretz Yisrael is to have hashras hashchina. It's all about the shechina. The whole reason we want Mashiach is for the shechina. It's all about the shechina. It's, not because the vegetables are good here. It's all about the shechina, and we're willing to fight and do whatever needs to be done to advance the process of hashras hashchina. That's what it all comes out. Or chadash al tzion toyer. We're asking Hashem for every day. We ask Hashem that an or chadash al tzion toyer. Tzion agavurcha. I don't mean the modern Zionist movement, but the word Sion is always Midas HaYesod, Gematria Yosef, which is Midas HaYesod. So it means to say that's the Vav HaChibur. Midas HaYesod is always that which connects Yesod to Malchus. What's Malchus? Malchus is, right, Chesed Gur Tiveres Netzach Yod Yesod Malchus. You guys know all the stuff by heart. Malchus means that the Or is shining Milamato Lamalo, and bingo, we've created the hay to the Yud K. We've connected the hay to the Yud K Vav. That's what's going on over here. So when he says Inina Pagam Lamala, this Pagam that we've made, I know, disconnecting the Yud K Vav from what that Vav HaChibur is supposed to be mischaber to, which is the final hay, which is the Atzilus Bria Yitzir and Asiya. So, says Reb Tzadok, that's only a perceived pagam. It's not really a disconnection, but it's a hester panim dome. In other words, you have not changed. Maybe you've changed the connection, but you haven't changed the Yud Kei Vav. It's not that you've changed the hishtalshus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we need to be more connected. So it's like, so a person does a chet. But I'm not sure about this part of it. There's two ways to understand this. But when a person does a chet, they create a pagam lamala. So either it takes away from the shechina, but not the obviously existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or it takes away from the connection between the Yud Kei Vav and the Hay, and therefore we have to do tshuva to reconnect. That's what tshuva means, to reconnect. And in a very basic level, tshuva means not to reconnect by doing what we're supposed to be doing in this world. We have a purpose in this world. That's what tshuva is. The main thing at tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all that, all the time. You don't have to wait till the busy season. Like all the time, it's a time to do tshuva. So the point of tshuva is coming to the senses of what am I doing here anyway. That's the basic question to ask yourself, like, what am I doing here?
When we do Shalom, we're set to self-help, what we be doing else. It sounds like we're concentrating on myself. I have to do something because I did something wrong.
Well, because you are the one that was created.
But the way I'm understanding that a little bit more is that it's something within the body that I have created that blockage which can come down. So it's not about me as an individual anymore.
So, eclipses, I'm not a scientist, certainly not an astronomer, but eclipsi, come in many, many degrees. Total eclipse. Every individual who separates their purpose from their purpose, their function from their purpose, is making somewhat of a pagam in the Or HaShechina. And you got to get back to it. Too many people I'll tell you what I think that means. When it becomes a culture, this is dangerous. Comes Gilui Araya, Shvichas Damim, Avodah Zara, becomes a culture, you get a Chorban, a Mabul. That's from a culture, meaning like, this is what we got to look for. We always do Averas. I mean, people do Averas, and we should. But when the Avera becomes the culture, that's when it's scary, because that's a big cutoff, even in not bad people. But I always think about this. Like growing up, the worst Avera anybody could do was not Shabbos, it was not Kashrus. The worst Avera anybody could do would be to marry a guy. I don't know if anybody else grew up. Like that was, Satshiva in the good old days. I remember so clearly people that didn't keep anything, but just don't marry that guy. And you ask them why is that any worse than any other Avera? So they're stuck. Well, your kids won't be Jewish. Oh, they will because I'm a girl. So all kinds of discussions about it. Like, what exactly is the chet of marrying a guy? Is about talking about the 7 amim. So you can't marry a Yavusi. The Minchas Chinuch on Loisis Chatinbaum talks about whether there's also a lav deraisa. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not. But I'll tell you why it's worse than every other Avera. Because it's a cultural chet. It's not understanding what it means to be Jewish, more so than Shabbos, more so than Kashrus. They always talk about in Israel, like no matter what, just make sure, people always ask me who to vote for, and obviously I don't comment on who to vote for. But, there's 2 things in this country that have to be. This is the extent of my politics. 2 things that have to be. There has to be security, and it has to be Jewish. That's it. I don't care about anything else. Nothing, I'm here, I want it to be safe, the best we can, and I want it to be Jewish. Because when you have a cultural gap from Judaism, we're thrown out of this land. You have golos. And that's a total eclipse. So does it work for the individuals? Obviously there's Tshuvas HaYachid, there's Tshuvas HaRabban, there's Tainus Yachid, there's Tainus Tzibur. Obviously there's different levels. But either way, it's a pagam. And either way, the pagam is something, says Reb Tzadok, is Chiddush, something like an eclipse. And by the way, there's a Chiddush B'toy Chiddush here. Because, I remember once asking, I once saw an eclipse, as probably all of you have. It was an eclipse of the sun. I once saw an eclipse, and I said to a very chashuv rav, I actually called him, and I said, "Is there a bracha? Is there, one of the gedolim?" So his first response was, "How am I supposed to know?" Okay, funny response. You're supposed to know. But then he said, "This is not what you're seeing is some kind of an astronomical thing, but it's not a likui halavana. Likui halavana is when there's a likui in the levana or in the chama, like there's some kind of a likui. So where the Gemara says that likui hachama siminrala umasoilam, likui halavana siminrala Yisrael. I was talking about a likui, not an eclipse. So, okay, does that ever happen? That there's actually a likui halavana or an actual likui hachama? So he said, what you're seeing, so he told me, what you're seeing is see every night. Sun goes down, moon goes up, likui hachama. The chiddush here is that you're not seeing the sun because the earth is in the way, right? The earth is blocking this. The moon is in the way. So every night you don't see the sun. It's not a liquid. I don't know. Okay, but he says the opposite. Say Reb Tzadok, big Talmud Chacham, he says that the pshat in a liquid, and that's like a chiddush b'toy chiddush, ubemes. Let's read it together. Hachama ba'atzmusa umitzida eino loike klal. First, eino loike klal. Rak heder oira la'aretz zeb mikra l'kus l'chama. It's called a liquid because the light doesn't get through, not because there's some kind of a chasarn in the sun. Shaharei, because inyan tachlisa shalchama lahoyer la'aretz, the whole purpose of the sun is to give light to the land. So if you're stopping me, if you're tying my hand, says the sun, from shining, so then you're doing a likui, but the likui is not in my betzius, it's in my function. V'chein, and look at this, v'chein b'chol laila hu lukus achama, for that matter. Every time you go to sleep, there's a lukus achama. What does it mean? You don't see the sun, and you do see the moon. That's the way the solar system works. Shagam zeh, also that, hu mitzad masach. It's all it is just a mask. You know, the word masach and the word mask are innate. We learned that during COVID. Zehu mitzad masach hamavdil. It's just that there's a curtain of Elon between the sun and the earth. So it's eclipsed. Or at night, same thing. The way everything's turning around, there's a system there. Dugmas lukusa b'yayim, just like you don't see the moon during the day. Umikol malkaim, nevertheless, Kisha halvana me'ira, when the moon is shining, a moon, enoi lakus gomer lechama, it's not taking away from the sun, kayadua, as is well known, sha'or halavana hu me'or hachama ubirkei ayros. Now we get to a different scientific idea, which we all know, that in fact, the moon is never shining its own light. It's only reflecting the light of the sun, which gets on my nerves because Chazal, first of all, say many times that the moon is giving light. We kind of say it in Kiddush Levana every month, but deeper than that, the Jewish people are like the moon. So does that mean we don't have our own light? Good. Let's think about it for a minute. You know, is it a pella that we say Kiddush Shalavana when there's no moon? I mean, you could just start saying the moon. You go around here, you know, Rosh Chodesh on Friday. First minute of the Mailad, we say, Chassidim wait a little bit, but you should wait. Like it's the right time should be the 15th of the month, which is exactly the wrong time to say Kiddush Halavana. So it's all a reflection. We're all a reflection.
Yeah. Could be that the moon should really just not reflecting it, so it's absorbing. The fact that it's reflecting it is that it's giving it out, it's carrying on.
It's absorbing the light.
It might absorb the light, and then that's all effect.
No sun, there's no moonshine.
But the fact that it reflects, it's reflecting, that's the
Type of light. Yeah, but there's no sun, then there's no moon.
It's from the sun, I know, but it could be that the moon just absorbs it and not affects it.
Oh.
So the finish is that it reflects it.
You got me. So I want to important sugya l'inyaneinu. You know, if the moon is if the Earth rather, if the moon is blocking the sun, you have an eclipse of the sun. What does it mean? We're on Earth. The sun is behind us, right? I'm sorry, the sun is in front of us. Eclipse of the moon. Let's get the science right. Right? We're on Earth. The sun is behind us. The moon is in front of us, and the sun's not getting through. Eclipse of the sun is the sun is in front of us, and the moon is in between. If you look at it with those special glasses they sell, if you look at an eclipse of the sun, which you're not supposed to do, so you'll see that you see the dark, and you'll see like a halo of light coming around it. The halo of light in the world of eclipses, science, is called the corona. That's what it's called, which means a crown. A corona means a crown. And the reason that is, is because we're dealing with Malchus Gemur. And your Malchus, on a spiritual sense, the mushal of what you're seeing, if you will, is a mushal of Malchus Shlema, as Rabbi said, the Lei Slei Megar Meklum. So let's just learn about it for a minute. It's fascinating, actually. So the Gemara in Chulin Kiyadua asks to steer in the psukim. Says Hamar Hagadol, Hamar Hakatan. There's two Ma'iros. When Hashem created the world, there's two Ma'iros, and then later on in the pasuk it says, there's only Amar Hagadol, Amshelas Hayayim, Amar Hakatan, Amshelas Halayla. Before it was Shtei Ma'iros Hagadolim. So the Gemara tells a story here that whether it's metaphoric or it happened, I don't know. But the Gemara tells a story that the moon got all excited about the fact that it has a competition called the sun. And two Amoros Hagadolos, Ein Shtei Malachim Ishtamshim Bekeser Echad. Keser Echad. You can't have two bosses. Either it's the sun or it's me. Get rid of the sun. That was presumably the like you can't have two things. Get rid of it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I think I'm quoting Gemara correctly. Hayov Shamarta Davar Hagun. Good gesagt. You said a Davar Hagun. L'chi Umiati Atzmech. You're right. You can't have two great luminaries. Make yourself small. Whoa. That's like Hashem's a rough teacher. So make yourself small. Marti davar hagun. I have to suffer. I have to become the small one. So Hashem said, okay, so I'll tell you what, people will count on you, right? The Nisan, Iyar, Shvat, they'll count on you, the lunar counting. So the Gemara says that the moon says to Hashem, but there's also this Gregorian thing where people are counting by the sun. So what kind of a compensation is that? So he says, Hashem says, well, let's do something else. You will become prominent in people's names. You find avos were called Hakatan, like Shmuel Hakatan. So like Hakatan, like a nice thing. The moon says, what kind of a pious consolation is that? So Hashem says, finally, you know what, on Rosh Chodesh, that's your day. So on Rosh Chodesh, new Chodesh, you'll bring a carbon, Chodesh, it'll be called a Sa'ir LaHashem. Is the only one that's called a Sa'ir LaHashem. Keilu, Dr. Rashi, this is my car. My fault? My fault. Sorry, LaHashem. Bring one for me. Not to me, but for me. Sa'ir LaHashem. Adkan is the Gemara L'Inyanenu. I heard from Rav Moshe Shapiro, I was looking for it inside, but I heard from Rav Moshe Shapiro, he said, like, B'derech Klal, like, if you do an Aveira and you want to do tshuva, so you stop doing the Aveira. So we're talking about God here. If you did a wrong thing and you made the moon too small, or you gave it an unfair determination, so change it. We'll go right back to or get rid of the sun, or do something. You know, like you don't keep like Chas v'Sholom Kiviyachol Kadosh Baruch Hu's Teufel v'Sheretz B'Yadai. Okay, we'll count according to you. Bnei Yisrael will be called the moon. It says over there, but just change it. Change it. So he said that we understand the Gemara completely wrong. And it wasn't a knas at all. In fact, it was a bracha. And the way the bracha worked was l'chi umiyati atzmech, go and make yourself smaller, because there's nothing bigger than someone who makes themselves smaller. The only reason Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who was able to be makabel the Torah is because he was the yon of Mikol Adam. Because the moment that you have any personal light in the matter, so then that's exactly the amount that you won't be able to reflect the light above. And therefore, it's an exact mashal, because what Hashem was saying to the moon, it says, you said davar hagun, you will be the representation of the chosen people, whose purpose it is to bring, like the first 10 minutes of what I was talking about, you will be Chodesh Hazel Lochem. See, Rav Hirsch says that, like, you look at Rosh Chodesh and we see how we could always be Mischadesh. Chodesh, Chadash. Mitchadesh, like we thought it disappeared. Here the Jews again. Yafet. That's a nice drush, but this is much more powerful, if I may. And what he's saying is that the more of yourself that's gone, the more of a reflector of light you will be. Hence, Chodesh Hazel Lochem. So therefore, make yourself small so you can be Makayim, the din of Malchus, the Leislei Migarbe Klum, as you said, that it can't have any of its own light. What it means is that the pshat in being chosen as the Bnei Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov is to be able to reflect at the Or Hashem and bring it into this world. The Koichiv Oitzim Yadi is when, yeah, but what about me? You know, I also have a light. It's true. There is a sun. So, here's the thing, like we say in, that's why they were very proud. Shmuel HaKatan was very proud to be called Shmuel HaKatan, and it brings the Avos are also called Katan here in Tanakh. But the Ani HaKatan is a tremendous shevach, because the shevach means that I'm all about the Or Hashem. Is it the essence of being l'shem shamayim? You know, like there's a difference between having a purpose and having a mission. I have a purpose, so I have a mission. I have a mission. I'm on a mission. I want to get wealthy. I have a purpose. There's a deeper degree to it, I think. So I want to be on a mission. I want to have a purpose, and ironically, the Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam, which is all the Chorban, and here we are, 3 weeks. All the Chorban, all the downs, and there are 7 before Mashiach comes, V'Kam. It's all about anivus. It's all about not getting carried away with our light, which is there. There is a arachama. There is light. It's part of. Let me just say it like this, the way I understand it. Ad kan devarav, but Rav Moshe Shapiro, what I remember. But there. Like every person, every one of us, probably every human being, but let's talk about Jews, has a body and a soul, has a guf and a neshama. A guf, okay, you take an MRI and you know all about your guf. You have a brain, you have a mind. It's 2 different things. The mind is much more esoteric. They're used synonymously, but it's 2 different things, right? And then there's the neshama, which does not show up on an X-ray. It shows up in history because we're still here as a people. Its symptoms are there, but there's a guf and there's a neshama. And every morning you get up in the morning and you say 2 brachas. This is very meaningful to me. I get so carried away with this. I usually miss Pesukei de Zimra. You say Asher Yotzar Adam Chachmo V'Arvei Nekam Nekam. It's all about my guf. Thank God. Like it's working. By the way, it's not about going to the bathroom. It's about my heart is beating. My liver is working. My brain has woken up. I can see. It's all in that bracha of nekavim, nekam, chalulim, chalulim, boom, boom, boom. We need a makom chalais. When are you going to say it? Every time your heart beats? So you say it when you come out of the bathroom. It needs like a makom chalais. But it's about health. And it's a fantastic bracha. And then we say, Elikai, neshama shenosata b'tayris. Let's talk about now our neshama. Well, it's a little more complicated. Because what's the uvda? What's the maisa? What's the thing? But the answer is that the neshama, I mean, however you want to understand it, or understand what level of consciousness the neshama is, but that's the life force, that's the, there's the brain, there's the mind, and there's the neshama. So let's call it the spirituality of the person, which gives me a purpose. And not only do I have a neshama, but there's a neshama klali. So Klal Yisrael has a neshama. And the Klal Yisrael shows is driven. And sometimes we're driven to do something we don't even know why we're driven to do something. We make decisions that are Mesiras Nefesh Mamash, and we don't even know why we're making mistakes. Ask them, I don't know. And we talk about it like you see. This is something we're able to see here in this country that, like you didn't see as much outside of Eretz Yisrael. But somebody was just telling me that they were away for Shabbos. I was away for Shabbos. They were in Hadera for Shabbos. So in Hadera for Shabbos, they rented this apartment on the beach, and they weren't sure about the Shabbos elevator. They walked down. I think it was 16 flights of steps and then up to go to the shul, which is down there on the bottom right by the beach. There was a shul, like a Sephardi shul. And he gets there, and he's the 9th man. So there were no 10 men in this shul. So, okay, what do we do? We need a 10th man. And walks out to the beach. Here's this boy, teenage boy, covered tattoo top to bottom. Asiri. Okay, Asiri. Betach. Comes in, takes some kind of a shmata, puts it on his head.
Shirt?
Yeah?
Shirt?
He didn't have one. And he's saying, Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavarach Olam Olam Me'omaya. He's saying Shema. He's saying, it was, I mean, it's a thing. It's a phenomenon of the neshama. It's a function of the neshama. It's like the Gemara says, the neshama is like God. You don't know what it is exactly. You don't see it, but it's easier. It's there. It's a presence. And our avodah, by the way, is to access it. So how does this have to do with what I'm saying? It has to do, because the only way to be mamshich the or of the ishtalshlus, and to connect the hay with the tashuv hay, is by accessing the or of the neshama. And then all of a sudden, you are enlightened. All of a sudden, you have a certain chachma, or zaru ala tzaddik, yishrei leiv simcha. All of a sudden, there's an or zaru ala tzaddik. All of a sudden, you can, Moshe Rabbeinu, karan or panav. There's light coming out of his face. Real, perceived, miyodeh. But there was light coming out of his face. So why was there light coming out of his face? Because he was in total access of his neshama, completely working together. And there was nothing about him that was in the way. There was no mechitza. By the way, you think you have to be a Kabbalah to understand? Go into the Shmona Prakim of the Rambam, where he talks about, I think it must be Perek Dalet, where he talks about the Mesach HaMavdil and all the different mechitzos that exist, which are all manifested in our bodiliness, in our gufnius, and it's all about when it's self-care. And you will see the symptom of a person who's working together with the neshama, both the Asher Yotzer and the Elokai neshama, that they will not be a person that's able to hurt other people. It'll be a person of wisdom. It'll be a person of ahava. It can't be. You can't. It's not like it's a tzaddik or is a role of tzaddik. That's the or is a role of tzaddik, which we're all trying to do that. So it's all accessing. So what we're doing. Let me sum it up because I'm out of time. But what we're talking about is the reason when Hashem said to the moon, "L'chiu mi'ati esatzmech," he wasn't disgracing the moon. You spoke up. Now make yourself small. Get into the corner. No. He was giving that you're right. It's a davar hagun. And now I'm going to give you the schus, because you have the sensitivity, moon, to be able to understand that there's a sun and there's a moon. I'm going to give you the schus of being complete manifestation of malchus in this world.
Why is the moon complaining then? And why is the moon complaining?
Who said it complained? No, he said so. No, he was asking, what does it mean? So they said, what does it mean? Well, people will count by you. You see, that it was complaining is our narrative.
How can we radiate this light? There's two bodies of light. Maybe like how can?
So what I'm saying is that you need a goof and you need a neshama. It's not going to go away. Even Mashiach comes, we're going to have a goof. It's good. It's good to have a goof. The idea is that they should work together. You're going to have a chama and you're going to have a levana. So what do we say in Kiddush Levana? We say, Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will, Shetei, or Hachama, Ka'or Halavana, Ukior, Sheishis Yemei Breishis. So what are we saying? We're saying, Hashem, make it that the Or Halavana will be so bright, it'll be just like the Or Hachama. Someplace it says it's going to be even bigger. The Or Halavana, Ukar Shivas Sheishis Yemei Breishis, that's another thing. That's the Oragonus. So, what does it mean that there's going to be these two luminaries again? In other words, that was l'chatchila. one of them is going to be its own light, the light of the world, the light of Gashmias. But the more important one is the light of Bnei Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, which is the Or HaLavana she'ein leis leib migar meklum. And when we say Or HaLavana Kar HaChama, means that light should shine, the Or HaNeshama, let's call it. That Or should shine just as bright as the Or HaChama. Let the Neshama, Bracha 2, be just as vocal in my life as the goof. The goof is telling you when it's thirsty. The goof is telling you when it's down. Goof is telling you to take Tylenol or go to the doctor. The neshama is not talking so loudly, and therefore it's not shining. We don't know how to connect with it. And then there's the neshama klali. I'm a fan of gedolim that have a neshama klali. Simon is they care about everybody. Simon 2, everybody likes them. That's who our role models should be. They're not divisive, they're inclusive. Real gedolim, Chafetz Chaim. That's what the Chafetz Chaim is. Everybody. There was no such thing as a Jew he didn't care about. And Yesh Gam B'Yameinu. Such people. That's the role model. But the idea is, I just want to say one more time, that the idea is like, let's say in our own life, that the Or HaChama and the Or HaLavana, the Guf and the Neshama, should be one. How does it come? Ironically, how do you make the moon shine? By miyatos atzmech, by becoming smaller and smaller. So by being smaller and smaller and being completely reflective, but not of the sun. Something is going to have its own light. Being completely reflective of Hashem, because it remains reflective. Ein ben. It remains reflective, but or absorbent, if you will. But it remains like that. That the Bria is not going to change. We're told by Chazal that the Bria is not going to change. But what happens is there'll be such a light of clarity and seichel and beauty and ava in the world. Ken yehi ratzon. Same thing, no?
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like muscle, right? The keeper you take in the
Right. It's already in the Torah, no? Like, Orlas Levavchem. Hasir's Orlas Levav. Lashon of Orla. Orla only comes twice, 3 times. One by fruit, one by a person, and one by the leyv. 3 times. Because the first, it's like your ideas. The first one is a klipa. Develop a little bit. Give it to Hashem. Now let's go. Like you got to break. You got to break through.
It's tough to the beginning of the month. It's tough to the beginning of the
The
month.
moilad.
It's tough. That's when we.
The moilad is a simcha when we've gotten so small.
Right. So that's the real shining is when we're not shining.
That's beautiful. Like that's what I was saying. The Kiddush Levana.
Hashem is dafka on Rosh Chodesh.
That's right.
That's where you see HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Where you see HaKadosh Baruch Hu is where you don't see yourself. It's so beautiful. Rosh Chodesh celebrate, like, you say Hallel on Rosh Chodesh. You say Hallel on, like a Yontiv, like Pesach, you say Hallel because the moon is gigantic. Klal Yisrael's strong. I say Hallel on Rosh Chodesh, so we disappeared. Because the disappearing is the strongest light of Hashem. That's subjective.
How does something smaller become something bigger? It's by the position, right? You go from smaller closer.
Go for it. Do I look like a scientist? I get mixed up how I said I get mixed up what's covering what, but when I think about it.
Fun fact: you know that if you have a solar eclipse, you always have a lunar eclipse 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after.
Oh,
Just saying.
Very
I don't know what
good.
relevance that has, but
it's funny. We right in the pre-Copernicus world, Is that his name? So we thought that the sun goes around the earth. Now we know, conclusively, that the earth goes around the sun. But we still say sunrise, sunset. Even scientists say that. Oh, so the pshat is that's the way it looks. Sof kol sof. That's a reality unto itself. So, like everyone has a kasha on the Rambam. Didn't he know? Because he talked. Did he know that the earth goes around the sun? It wasn't important in halacha. It's an astronomical reality. It's not important in halacha. Halacha is important. What times is Richas Hashem is? What times is Shkias Hashem? That's
That was the Lashon here, right? The perception of what it is.
perception, which is what.
How does Ramosh understand the korban of the
So if we're making us suffer, because that nothingness, that the humbleness that we have to come, that we come to, the humility that we come to, manifests itself in a Holocaust. So for that Hashem does tshuva, meaning that your light. What was I saying? Why you're celebrating Rosh Chodesh, which we're zero, but we're saying Hallel. That light is beautiful if you understand it deeply, but it's also painful. So that's the Shiur LaHashem. That's what he says. Just before I left my house, I thought to look in the Afikei Mayim, and I think I found it, but I didn't get a chance to read it. But I think I'm accurate. That's pretty much what he said. I'm sure he said it.